Happy Sunday morning, 10 a.m., just like church used to be for me back in the day. Growing up in Stamford, Connecticut, going to St. Leo's Parish, back in the day, I was what you call a donuts and coffee Catholic. More about that later. So, welcome back to the Tomcast. It's been a long time. Thanks for joining me. I've had a lot of requests to do another one of these. It's been a while. Thankfully, I've been busy working and haven't had a lot of time for fun work, been all preoccupied with professional work. And after last year, two thumbs up to having real work these days. And I hope you all are having successes too as we're getting out of the COVID misery and into a brighter future. I got my second Moderna shot in the shoulder. I don't know why, but I got these red marks where the Band-Aid was. I don't know what that's all about, but you can see it. I took this off Friday and it's Sunday. But human anatomy made me think about drawing people. So let's get into something. This is a drawing I worked on a little while ago, inspired by some medieval movies I was watching, and I thought it would be fun to get into something like this. I ended up talking to a buddy named Josh at the range one day. He said his boy is getting into cartoons, wants to learn how to draw, and so partially, Josh, this is for you too. So let's get right into it without more time. Feel free to comment if you're hanging out in the stream. This will be on YouTube later. Turbo Symonds YouTube channel, which I have not posted anything in quite a while. So what I'm using is a Wacom Cintiq and Adobe Photoshop, and this is what I've been using for a long time. There's many better apps out there now for drawing. In your tablet, you might have some kind of Apple app, or there might be a drawing app within Windows. You don't need to pay $10 a month like I do for Photoshop. You can find out some other way to do it. Or you could just sketch along in a sketchbook. Just grab some paper, some printer paper, some line paper, whatever you got, pencils, pens, whatever you want to do. I only use a couple different brushes within Photoshop. I can right click on my pen tip and open my brushes up, and I have a myriad of different little brushes I use, but I'll be mostly using the hard round brush here just to sketch. I'm going to start making some marks just to show you how I get my arm worked up. I try to draw with my whole arm when I'm working on a canvas like this, and then if I'm getting into the details, then I just focus in on my little fingertip movements. But I like to make a bunch of random marks just to warm up. If we want to draw the person, what do we have to think about? First of all, some kind of S-like line is a good way to start when drawing some person, just to warm up. So let's just create a really slight little S line like this. Now, what does that represent? That's going to be the spinal cord. It could be the pose. It could be a neck. Throughout human anatomy and animal anatomy, we see the S and these curves repeated over and over. Why? It's a spring. It can flex. It can move. It can extend. It gives us a lot of flexibility. So maybe from just this simple S I just drew here, I'm already imagining some kind of figure I can put onto it. Somewhere in the middle might be the pelvis, and that's the next step when drawing people, is going to be thinking about shapes, abstract mass conceptions like boxes, cylinders, spheres, all that kind of good stuff that can represent the figure or the form. So just by putting a few boxes in perspective, we're starting to come up with a figure just based off of an S I just drew out of nowhere. Good morning, Deb. I'm glad you're here, and I see that B says hi. B is in Facebook jail again, not surprising. Welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for tuning in. And then we can have some limbs come out the front, maybe the side. Now you may say, Tom, you're getting way ahead of us here. How did you just turn an S into a figure with boxes? How are you drawing in perspective already? How are you already thinking about foreshortening and where the camera angle is? Well, that comes from 20 years of drawing every single day, if not more. So let's break down, where am I getting these different shapes and angles from. If I'm bored and I have nothing off the top of my head to draw, I'm just going to start drawing mass conceptions, which would be simple shapes like squares, circles, triangles, and shapes that combine these into 3D forms. The box drawn on its side, you have actual diamond shapes. 3 diamond shapes next to each other create a 3-dimensional box. If we want that in more perspective, we have one of the faces more prominent and the other faces submissive to that, so slightly smaller. We could change where the perspective is coming from. So same with a circle. If you want to take a circle, flatten it out to make a little bit of an ellipse, and then draw a line straight down from it. Now you have a cylinder. Copy that top line, draw it at the bottom again, and now we have a cup or a glass, put a little handle on it. Most places that you'll find artists drawing, there's something to drink, either coffee or a beer at a bar. So cups of all different shapes and sizes are usually available to draw. And once you're practiced enough drawing cups and glasses and other kinds of glassware, you'll see a lot of those shapes are mimicked in the human figure. Or you can use those shapes to mass conceptualize a more complicated shape, such as an arm or a leg. Triangles, similar thing. Instead of just a circular top and bottom, maybe it's easier to imagine a triangle as a prism. That type of stuff. So you can practice drawing these simple shapes, maybe a pyramid. Get some of your blocks, steal some blocks from your kid, put them on a table, doodle them and practice them. And then we'll use those to turn into a figure. Just like a Lego character is set up as a series of boxes pretty much stacked on top of itself. Maybe a box area for the leg, box area for the torso, and then cylindrical area for the head. Here we have our generic Lego character, and then little C-shaped hands, which are just a cylinder with just one side taken off of it. And the more you draw, the more you can visualize the end product before you even get started. I'm going to use my eraser to come in there. On the keyboard it is E in Photoshop and B is for brush. And I think Lego character looks something like this. Something like this. And he's got some cool t-shirt. Benny the Spaceman. Something like that. So you see how we have a character that's boxy, but we still relate to it, because who hasn't played with the Lego? I guess some really poor kids haven't played with Legos when they were kids, but a lot of Americans have played with Legos at some point, or at least seen them, right? At least seen them. This is a Lego character, or Lego minifig, is a lot like a abstracted version of a person. It's simplified. I use the term abstract not to increase complexity, but to decrease complexity. So if you're thinking about something that's very complex like the solar system, you can abstract the complexities of the sun, the moon, the asteroid belt as just a circle and a series of circles with little circles around it. So this is an abstract representation, in a way, an abstraction. It's simplified. It's simplified. Abstract art, quote unquote, would be taking it even further, usually taking the ideas of emotions or time and abstracting those into two-dimensional visuals. Like, we're not expressing, to really express an emotion takes performance, music, sound, all these different things. Try to capture the complexity of emotion into just a piece of visual art. You have to simplify some things. You have to create a shorthand for what that emotion means. Anyway, so I use the term abstract to indicate some kind of way of creating a simplified, easier to process, conceptual thing. Now, sorry, this is a lot of heavy language for the little, the little ones out there. So let's make it even simpler again. Why not? We're always striving towards simplicity, right? We want things to get simpler and simpler and simpler so they're easier to communicate. So let's start with a very simple stick figure. Start with the head, we have a body, and then what do the children draw for they have an arm and a leg like this, right? Arms and maybe a leg like that. And you have a simple stick figure. And we've seen stick figures for 10,000 years of art history. It's easy to draw, and you can do a lot with a stick figure. You can make a stick figure run just by bending the knees and then making the arms swing. This is recognizable. This is a recognizable skeletal structure of something that's doing an action. You can do a lot with this. You can take that same stick figure and make it picking up an object. Let's say the stick figure is bending over to pick up a box or something. Use a box on the ground. So let's draw this again. Maybe some circles for hands. Bent knees. The stick figure is where we can figure out whether the drawing makes sense or not as quick as possible. Does this make sense? The head feels a little big. So it doesn't take a lot of time to figure out if the drawing works or not, just starting with a stick figure. Does that work? Is that interesting? Let's try a couple more drawings of a stick figure picking up a box. So let's have a purely two-dimensional side view. We have a box, we have a ground, and we have a stick figure picking up the box by leaning over. So maybe the leg is like this, or legs like that, and then the back is moved over like this, and then there's a head looking down, and then the two arms come around the side of that. That's not too bad. I know that this will be very forward weight. It feels like this pose would require the box to support the upper body weight of the character. So let's try that again. Let's do another drawing that might make a little bit more balanced sense. Let's have the knees come forward or a little closer to the box, and then the stick figure is maybe more over their feet. They're not quite reaching the box yet. It's not bad, not bad. So here I'm just using a horizontal line to represent the pelvis. Let's try another box. What if this character is bending sideways, getting really low? There's the feet, there's the knee, shoulders, and then hand there, hand over here, head's over it, and then maybe the other leg is behind the box. Does that make sense? Let's try from a different angle. Let's try from 3/4 view. So let's say the box is on the ground. Let's have one character looking at it kind of confused. How should I move this box? This reminds me of an XKCD comic. I love that comic. And then the other person's thinking about how to pick it up. So one of the rules of balance is you want to keep your head over your feet. So if you have the feet on the ground over here, there's a foot there, maybe a foot over here. Head's over the feet like this. The person's reaching to the side to come down and grab the box. Maybe something like that. What do we think about that? So let's say we went with this drawing. Let's say we like this sketch. Just the ground plane here. We use those mask conceptions to fill out this figure. If we like this figure, I'm going to just make it a little more transparent and draw over it for instruction purposes. If this little sketch feels good, we can use this stick figure as the basis for building musculature on top of it and thickening the character up, making it more realistic. So for one, arm would be a cylinder or a series of cylinders. And as is the leg, and then the knee. And then the foot is some kind of planar shape. Like it's got a rectangular base. It's like, I guess it's a trapezoid where it's got a smaller top than bottom. That's how I like to draw my feet. And then a pint glass shape for the leg, the lower leg. Looked like a blender, didn't it? All right, we'll do the same thing in the back leg, but just a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller. Back leg, foot. Let's have this other arm coming down a little bit. And mitten for the hand, torso, pelvis, and then head. To refine the head, instead of a sphere, we go to a cylinder shape. That's the next level of refinement. So let's just break that out for a second. So abstraction to refinement, we start with the most abstract, be the sphere. We work our way to refinement with either a cylinder or a box. And then as you can take that box, we can now subdivide and add detail into that box to create a face. Adding a cross in the middle, placing eyes, a nose, a mouth, eyebrows, ear, refine, 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 cheeks, jaw, chin, all that good stuff. And we can just noodle, noodle, noodle based on what we've studied. Hair, etc. You follow? Hopefully you do. So I love perspective. I love drawing in perspective. It's a challenge for me. It's like going to the golf course and only hitting with your pitching wedge the whole course. It's going to be hard and frustrating, but you're going to feel really cool after you've done it. I don't know, that metaphor doesn't make a lot of sense, but it was fun to say. So let's simplify it again. Let's go back to just 2D and drawing the figures in an easier way. We do things a little differently here on the Tomcast. This is not your typical drawing show. Right? So, let's think of a character from straightforward. How do I build a character that's proportional? Well, we'll start with the tippity top of the head and then a line to the bottom. You have to know what your total overall size is going to be first. You don't want to start drawing and then end up running out of space. So I set myself some guidelines. Next, you want to divide that about halfway. Is generally the waistline, give or take. Generally the waistline. Then divide again. This is going to be the knee area. And if you come up in the middle, it's going to be somewhere around the chest. I don't usually draw this, to divide it this way. And then I would say half again, like the top quarter will probably be the head. So let's just make that top quarter be a head. Let's try that. Let's see how that feels. And then somewhere between the head and the middle of the chest will be the shoulder line. Now, how do we divide up like actual distances of legs and stuff? Let's break this down geometrically. Once you have the head, that head shape is going to be about 4 of those for the chest, 4 of those for the pelvis, and then the leg starts like midway down on the bottom box of the pelvis. We have our knee area. And then we have the last quarter is going to be 2/3 the lower leg and 1/3 the foot. The arms, the upper arm or the elbow area comes down to about the bottom. This would be the rib cage, by the way, of a person. That's what would fill up that top 4 boxes. And then the forearm comes down to about where the hip is. And then the hand, the total full size of the hand, comes down to about midway down the thigh. Give or take a little bit. Probably the tallest, longest finger would come there. And we refine a little bit. On a fit person, the area right below the rib cage would be the skinniest, and then it would come back out wide again by the hips, just by a little bit. The more effeminate your character, the wider those hips would be, the narrower the rib cage would be. The more masculine your character, the wider the chest, the stronger the trapezius, the stronger the bigger the upper body muscles are, and proportionally the smaller the lower body muscles are. We'll start with the masculine character because I'm a dude. I know how to draw dudes. Look at a dude in the mirror every day, and that's what I'm used to seeing in my mental image. On the calves, when we're looking right at the calf, they're going to be this is a little bit detailed, but they're going to be slightly higher on one side than the other and a little bit more carved in on the inside. The foot is actually only about twice as long as the base that is coming into. So the width of the knee, so this width is the same at the bottom of the foot too, and then you just double that to get the length of the foot. All right, so what are we doing with the head? Let's round it up just a little bit. Kind of an egg shape. We want to divide. I put a cross in the middle of that egg shape for the face, and then maybe just a little bit of a curve to favor one side or the other. So if I had my character looking this direction, I would make a crescent curve, just kind of echoing the direction of my face going in. And then in the middle of that is a nose, forehead. Halfway between the bottom of the nose and the chin is the mouth. And the eyes are somewhere in there. Let's change up my eraser just to get a little bit more refinement. In Photoshop, I can use the brackets to increase and decrease the brush size. Bracket keys on the keyboard. On the keyboard. Let's erase. Let's add some clothing onto this character and also give this character something to hold, like a nice toasty cup of coffee. I think that's important. Who doesn't love a hot coffee in the morning? A cold morning, hot cup of coffee is amazing. A hot morning, cold coffee is amazing. Right? Isn't that right, B? Let's put some short shorts on this character. Maybe they're James Reeves from the TFB blog. some short shorts, and a stylish t-shirt. It says something cool like Tom Cast. That's right. So that's what y'all watching right now. Hands are pretty complicated. Let's get into the hand a little bit. So now we have a figure. Not too bad. Not too bad. Oh, we forgot to do shoes. Let's just do a couple zigzags and sole, something like that. Not too bad. How about some high socks? High socks are fun. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Track shorts and high socks. And a sweatband. This person's going running. Sweatband in honor of Luke. My friend Luke, who wore a sweatband when he goes running. Hands have a lot of detail to them. We abstract it as a mitt. This part about the same as the longest finger. Something like that, and then there's the wrist, forearm, something like that. Let's do another hand, but open. So forearm, wrist, middle finger, index finger, ring, pinky. So there's these different proportions to remember. It's very common, since humans, we use our index fingers, we have the most dexterity with our index finger. We tend to separate our index finger out from the other three. I mean, we know our ring finger and pinky finger tend to bend together, and you can see even when I try to just bend these two, my middle finger goes along with it. Index finger has its own level of dexterity. So it's common in art and poses to group these three fingers together, and in fact, when I worked in video games, 3D character models used to not have individual fingers. We would group these three together and then just have an index finger. That way you could point, you can use the trigger on a gun, you can do all kinds of... There aren't a lot of cases where you need to have these three fingers separated in any kind of action, but having that pointer is nice. So often I'll draw that way too. My friend Dorian and mentor Dorian expressed that to me, that you see in a lot of paintings, a lot of Renaissance works. They have the index finger being the most expressive finger. So for most purposes, let's do a perspective drawing of a hand just to get that across. So I start with the palm. I can visualize the mass conception of the palm of the hand coming at the camera, and then dividing up where the four fingers would go, and the thumb would be somewhere underneath. And I'm using cylinder mass conceptions to visualize where the fingertips would be. And it's coming right at us, so that means it's getting a little bit... Fingers coming right at you are a little tricky, because from the top view, the finger is getting narrower. But foreshortening dictates that whatever's closest to us gets bigger as it gets closer. But it ends up making the fingers look very straight, which is kind of interesting, because it's foreshortening and getting smaller at the same time. It's a weird effect. There's a great book that I studied when I was a teenager called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and I think that is one of the best tools that you can get for the price. I think that book was like 25 bucks. Let me pull that up on Amazon just so y'all can see it. What's up, Drew? How you doing, baby? Good to see Drew again. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by Stan Lee, 1984. Still an awesome book. You can get paperback for under $10. Excuse me. Under $10 for How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Love this book. I think you should buy it for your kids. That's how I learned mostly how to draw people. Along with practice and lots and lots and lots of practice. So we're about 30 minutes in. Let's do something else. What do you think, Drew? Stephanie says hi. Hi, Stephanie. Coffee today is Green Mountain Coffee. Went a walk to Saubles in Shrewsbury. Got myself a donut. Got myself a coffee. Walked back. Got a little sweaty. Feeling good. Feeling good. Had my Moderna shot. And I felt like junk yesterday. Stayed in bed all day. All right, let's do an effeminate figure. That'd be fun. In honor of Stephanie, we're going to draw a lady. All right. So again, top of the head, bottom of the feet. Drew says, give us some sci-fi. All right, sci-fi lady. Let's do a sci-fi space lady. That'd be fun. Love sci-fi space ladies. All right, head, torso, pelvis, legs. Something like that. Sci-fi space ladies. So shoulders. Let's get some contrapposta, which means it's going to be the angle of the shoulders is going to tilt up one way, and the angle of the hips is going to go the other way. That always looks cool. And then it gives us an opportunity to bend a knee, which makes it more interesting. To bend the knee. Hip out there. Oh, Lord, she's coming. Feet. Well, this is going to be sassy. A little bit of mass for the chest. I think we need a ray gun. Right there. That's right. Trigger discipline. Space gun. Let's do a space helmet. Let's go retro sci-fi today. I'm liking where this is going. All right, what's the other arm going to do? One hand, let's get some space gloves. Space gloves. What's this arm do? If one arm's got the pistol up, what's the other arm do? What should the other arm do? Maybe a space lasso like Wonder Woman? Maybe they're holding an alien. Maybe they're like holding some kind of... There's an alien in a net. That'd be fun. Alien's like, no, I've been caught. That's fun. Alien in a bag. Let's erase. One of the nice things about digital, and Drew will know where this is going, is you can confirm whether your drawing makes sense by flipping it. So I'm going to do that right now. You can look at, if you're drawing traditionally, you can look at it through a mirror. You can look at it through the back side. You can hold it up to a light, flip it over, look from behind. So I'm just going to simply flip it over here by doing an image rotation, flip canvas horizontally, and it still feels pretty good. So I might just go with that. I might actually set this alien on the ground, so Space Lady isn't like just using up all her space muscles to capture it. I don't know. Something like that. Steph says purple alien. Okay, purple alien it is. Do a little Martian lunar landscape back here. Retro sci-fi rocket in the distance. Some stars. Space Lady. Okay, what else? What decisions can we make about this character? Drew says she does have some good muscles, though. True, true. Well, we need a belt, number one, with some kind of holster. Let's give it a Han Solo style hip holster. That'll also extend the femininity of those hips out. I think that's why the Chicas like Han Solo so much. He's got a little hip flex. He's not afraid to be fashionable in a retro future with a striped pair of fitting pants, a vest, some cool boots. Adding some more details, maybe some pads, some kind of knee pad thing maybe. A little curve for the calves, some space boots. I'm thinking of my friend Jessica Drew Johnson, who had a really awesome Space Lady cosplay. It was pretty sweet. This kind of reminds me of that thing I saw. Very form-fitting spacesuit. Not going for realism here. Going just for fun. Going for fun. Let me see if I can find that reference real fast. Jess is always dressing up in some cool costumes. People like dressing up, man. Remember back in the day, you only got to dress up once a year? Maybe you dressed up for New Year's Eve and like Sunday Mass. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe like people stopped going to church. They started dressing up for cosplaying all the time. All the time. And people like dressing up these days to go to concerts dressed up. Not really a great. There's a whole series of photos, but this is one of the Space Lady pictures that Jess made. This is pretty cool. Brett Stanley photography. Got her space. It's like underwater spacey kind of flying thing. But this is always cool. Like the straps accentuate the figure, as do the seams in the costume. When it comes to fashion, uh, the choice of where the seams are and where the colors are to accentuate the anatomy is important. So we need to have some kind of box for all the air controls, all the buttons and knobs and dials, switches. With some kind of little backpack with an air tube. Spacesuit. These big gloves are kind of fun, like superhero gloves. Feels very Buck Rogers. Man, I miss some retro sci-fi. I want to rewatch it, but I know it's just so corny now. It's hard to get through. Drew, what's your favorite old-timey sci-fi? Thanks, Stephanie. Stephanie says it looks awesome. Let's get into the face a little bit. I like the energy here. I don't want to mess it up too much. So we're going to keep our changes very subtle here because it has good energy. Let's go with my more blendy brush. Favorite sci-fi. Drew's got to go with Star Wars. He says, I think they were ahead of their time. That or Spaceballs. Well, Spaceballs doesn't exist without Star Wars. It's kind of a 1-2. When you get one and you add Mel Brooks, you get the other. Absolutely, Star Wars was ahead of its time. Light years ahead of its time. And it set the standard for what movies were going to be afterwards. The blockbuster, the high production value, Industrial Light and Magic, the company Lucas started just to make those special effects for Star Wars, ended up making special effects for so many other movies, be it Spielberg, be it Cameron, be it all these other great filmmakers. Not possible without, just like Henry Ford industrialized making cars using the assembly line, I think Lucas and ILM industrialized filmmaking, movie magic. That's why they call it Industrial Light and Magic. All right. It's amazing the risks that the original Star Wars took. Lucas needed it to look faster. He knew about speed, about making things look fast. And that was the key. Everything else felt really slow. Lucas wanted stuff moving really quickly, adding blur, motion blur, because he came from filming car chases, a movie like American Graffiti. He knew speed was the key. Speed was the key. And then somebody had to fund it. So whoever funded that believed in Lucas and took a ragtag bunch of actors. There wasn't any star power associated with it. So all the money went to shooting on location in what, Tangier or somewhere? Morocco? Shooting on location using real world constructed sets was also done really well. I think there was probably some inventions in film that made the quality just so much better. I mean, he used natural light wherever possible. Grueling shoots done either in the desert or in the sand, snow in Empire Strikes Back. The characters were believable in those environments because they were actually in horrific environments. Hellish landscapes. When they filmed Empire, I heard that it was so much snow, they did a few of the shots just from the back of the hotel. They couldn't even get to the set, but there was plenty of snow on the ground just outside of the hotel rooms. And credit to the actors. They were willing to put up with harsh conditions. Got to get your space belt. Got some little containers. I don't know what those are for exactly. Some kind of aiming system. Looks good. Get your ray gun. Pew pew. Set to stun, so you can bag an alien. How do you feel? I think I made the head a little too big. Microphone. Shrink it down just a little bit. Another beauty of Photoshop is you can do that kind of stuff. Shrink stuff down. Pretty easy. Yeah, let's flip it again. Flip horizontal. Space lady. Looking good. Let's refine this hand here. Don't really like what's going on. Let's erase and redraw it. Start with a potato. Thinking a fist. Yeah, that's much better. Strong fist. That's what's up. As my friend Joe says, that's what's up. Do it. All right, what do we think? Yeah, we got stuff going on the right side of the canvas. We don't have a lot of stuff going on the right side of the canvas. Maybe let's put a crashed UFO. Yeah, that's fun. Kind of crashed alien spaceship. Yep, feeling good about this now. Getting some details. Let's add a little bit more to the right side of the canvas. Beautiful thing about Photoshop, I can just add a little bit more to the right. Let's increase the width to 45. Pretty dope. Thank goodness for Drew and Stephanie giving me inspiration. Going sci-fi space lady with its bagged alien. Would not have drawn it if it wasn't for you two. And inspiration by Jessica Johnson. Thank you, Jessica Drew. UFE. So that's the basics of drawing some people, drawing some characters. We've gone for about 54 minutes this morning, and that's all I got time for because I got to vacuum my house, which has been sadly neglected for the last 6 months because reasons. Thank you all for hanging out while we drew a drawing today. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, sign and date your drawings. You'll hold on to them or give them to people, and they want to know when that was made. So I'm going to sign this Space Lord 5/23/21. Actually, Space Lord looks like an R. Space Lore. Space Lore. That's even more interesting. Space Lore 5/23/21. Have a great Sunday. Take advantage of the hot weather by making some sun tea. Inspired by Chris Quillis. Sun tea. Doing what you need, even when you don't need it. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you too, Drew. Have a great weekend.